Today we are having an interview with Ariel Gottlieb, the chair of the Journalist Union of Haaretz newspaper and member of Soialist Struggle Movement. Yesterday the journalists of the paper went on an 8 hours strike, which led in the first time in some decades in Israel for the daily paper Haaretz not to be printed and published the following morning. Ariel, can you please give us some background to the strike that you staged yesterday?
Well, our struggle actually began at least 7 months ago when we were informed by management that they intend to carry out a very drastic cut in jobs. They actually never gave us a specific number, but over the time we came up with an estimate of around 100 journalists. It's about between 1/5 and 1/4 of the journalists working in Haaretz today. And since then we've been busy many meetings with management, also several protests inside the building, the workplace, and outside it. And we've come to the point where management insists to carry out the full cut and is not willing to negotiate the scale of the cuts and the redundancies. And this left us with no choice but to use the strike weapon.
Is there any negotiations going on now with the management? What is their position in the negotiations?
Well, there have been meetings up to last week, but I can't say that we're really having negotiations since the government, the management insists that there will be no change to the number of journalists fired.
And the reasons that they are giving for this is the financial crisis of the paper and generally the crisis of the printed press in the world. They are saying that basically there is no alternative to layoffs in this situation. And what is the response of the union to this argument?
Well, our answer is that first of all we need to see the books. We want full disclosure of the financial information concerning the paper, both in terms of income and in terms of what money is spent on, in order for us to be able to see the real situation, and also to come up with alternatives as to where cuts can be made, not necessarily just by firing journalists. And at the same time we're also coming up with ideas from the journalists, the workers themselves, about how the paper can raise its income, come up with new sources of income.
There is a number of parallel struggles in different media outlets in Israel against layoffs and even against threats of bankruptcy and closure in some of the places. Can you describe shortly the situation in Maariv, in Channel 10? And
yes, Maariv is the biggest struggle. It's one of Israel's major daily papers, and 2,000 jobs of journalists and other workers are on the line. And there's a very brave struggle by the workers there that have only organized over over the last year, and are demanding not just that the newspaper is continues to operate, but also to make sure that every employee is given the right amount of pension allowances. There has been several months over the last years when money was not put in the employee savings account by the employer. That's quite outrageous. Also about Channel 10, this is also a very big workplace where also workers have organized over the last year, and here the state acts as a regulator and has refused to spread the debts of the owner to the state. But it's also quite clear that the government is interested in having less critical voices, and this is why they're basically ignoring the crisis.
How does the current attack on journalists' jobs and condition affect the right for free democratic press?
Well, it seems quite clear that for the Netanyahu government there's no need to do anything, despite thousands of jobs being on the line, because from their viewpoint it's only positive that less voices will be heard, less criticism will be pointed at the government. And also when journalists fear for their jobs more than ever before, it makes them obviously not as courageous and as inquisitive as they should be.